Daily Soccer Podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle, your home for all things black and white across Tyneside. I'm Michael Grahamslaw, and today we're diving into a huge result at St James's Park as Newcastle United's women powered to a 3-1 Derby Day victory over Sunderland in the WSL2. Nearly 19,000 fans were packed into the cathedral on the hill, creating another fantastic atmosphere as Claire Ditchburn's side extended their unbeaten run under their interim manager and leapfrogged up to fourth in the table. Now, let's be honest, the first half was a bit of a snooze fest and not a lot happened, but in the second there was drama, missed opportunities, set-piece chaos, and a superstar showing from the bench. So let's get right into it. This Tyne away derby came in with a real narrative. Newcastle was 7th, Sunderland 8th, but Newcastle were unbeaten in 2 under interim boss Claire Ditchburn following Becky Langley's departure, and Sunderland were out without a win in 7, but who knows what can happen on a derby day. Now, both managers made a couple of changes. Anna Tamminen returned in goal for Newcastle. Diana Cooper came into the back line, or Dina Cooper, should I say, came into the back line. And Sunderland recalled Louise Griffiths and Kira Barry from their tough loss to Portsmouth last time out. The opening half an hour kind of reflected the tension, and no, I'm not talking about everyone standing outside waiting to get in, which was a slog, a struggle, but resembled that first half pretty nicely. Newcastle enjoyed more of the ball, struggled to break down a Sunderland side that were compact and reliant on the counter-attack. There was a couple of half chances, nothing too troubling though. Magpie's best moment came on 31 minutes. A lovely delivery from Beth Lumsden, who was without a doubt the best player from either side in that first half. Shayna Hales had her close range effort blocked, and Molly Pike fired over the bar from the rebound. At half time, it was 0-0. The game needed a spark, and in the stands, I needed a coffee. The coffee didn't manage to get it. Queue was too long, but the spark definitely came. Although not from the side you would have expected. After a pretty lacklustre first half from Sunderland, it only took 6 minutes before they earned a penalty. The ball ricocheted in the box. There was a few misplaced passes in the lead up. Hit Alfie Mannon on the arm, should I say. Ricocheted off her foot onto her arm from a shot. The referee, Phoebe Cross, pointed straight at the spot. And although it did spark life into the game, for me it was a terrible decision. A turning point in the referee performance as well. I thought first half, Phoebe Cross had a great half. In the second, just seemed every call just seemed to be wrong. New from the Newcastle side and the Sunderland side as well. There was a few free kicks given to Newcastle where I was thinking, okay, I'm not sure how that's been a free kick, but we'll take it. And there was a few moments, obviously, the penalty included, where Sunderland got the look of the green. But that wasn't the goal for Sunderland in the end. It could have been a moment that broke the game open. It actually probably was the moment that broke the game open. But Eleanor Dale was the one that stepped up for Sunderland, and Anna Tamminen back into the squad, calm as you like at the Gallagher end, got down low and saved brilliantly. A huge moment in the game, a genuine derby turning point, and you could feel the lift it gave the home crowd, which admittedly was starting to get a bit cold and a bit quiet. Even manager Claire Ditchburn at the end of the game said that was the hugely important moment, and she was right. It changed everything, because from there Newcastle came alive, and I found out exactly why Newcastle were just lumping the ball into the box at every opportunity they got. Because on 63 minutes, a Jordan Nobbs corner caused absolute carnage in the Sunderland box. There was bodies everywhere, a scramble on the line, and it was Dina Cooper who reacted quickest and nodded home from close range. 1-0 Newcastle, Derby Day delight, and St James's Park erupted, or at least the 3/4 of the stadium that they opened did. But Sunderland, it took them a little while to recover from that blow, and Newcastle struck again 2 minutes later. Lumsden swung in another dangerous corner. Sunderland hesitated. Goalkeeper Grace Maloney couldn't claim it, and substitute Emily Murphy, who'd only been on the pitch for 8 minutes, powered in a header to double the lead. 2 goals in 2 minutes, and it looked all but done for the Magpies. The Magpies were soaring, but Sunderland, the Black Cats, hadn't stopped purring. Derby Day drama wasn't done. Straight from their own corner kick, Sunderland hit back. A game of set pieces. Emily Scarr delivered deep to the back post. Kira Barry rose highest and nodded it past Tamminen to make it 2-1. There was a bit of a kerfuffle in the box. A lot of players went down. Newcastle ended up having to make a substitution as well. But it was 3 goals in 5 minutes. The game had gone from a cautious, edgy mess to a chaotic, brilliant second half. In just the blink of an eye, and with 20 minutes to play, anything could have happened. For Sunderland, it was a lifeline. For Newcastle, it was a real test of the composure. You know, Becky Langley, unfortunately, no longer at the club. Under her, I think at the start of the season, Newcastle might have crumbled. But given the fact that their manager had departed, I think it's one of those where the lasses have sort of felt like they've let her down and they don't want to do the same going forward. So you could really see the resilience of the players there as they were looking to push back up the table and get into the promotion fight they were tipped for at the start of the season. And you were wondering who was going to have the mettle to really be the one that pushed the game forward. And of course, it was the substitute again, Emily Murphy, who had already changed the game with her second goal. She was full of energy, full of confidence, and an absolutely devastating finish for the third as she picked the ball up around 30 yards out, drove forward, carried it into space, and unleashed a low strike straight into the bottom corner. Her second goal of the game, Newcastle's third, and it was a moment that sealed the Derby win. It was a super sub performance if you'd ever seen one. 2 goals, relentless pressure, and a statement for minutes going forward, because at Chelsea, she obviously left because she wasn't getting minutes, and at Newcastle, she's found them hard to come by, but maybe she won't find them hard to come by going forward, because she was the unanimous player of the match. Absolutely fantastic performance off the bench. And after that third goal, Newcastle saw the game out with maturity, controlled possession, and ensuring Sunderland never found a way back into the game. When the full-time whistle blew, the roar around St James's Park said it all. A Derby Day win, some happiness at St James's Park, which outside of the Champions League for the guys, we haven't really had at all this season. Newcastle leap up to 4th in the table. Obviously, there's a bit of a gap between the top 3 and the rest, but Newcastle leading the way of the rest of the pack, and an interim manager who is still unbeaten and putting her face and name, should I say, right up there for the candidates for the role going forward for the rest of the season. And speaking of Claire Ditchburn, she was full of pride in the post-match. You could see how much the fixture meant to her, because she even says this is the big derby. When you come to Newcastle, everyone tells you this is the one you need to win. And Claire, you did just that. Absolutely fantastic performance. And in the other dugout, Mallory, well, it tells you all about the game. She wouldn't do a post-match press conference. But then 8 games without a win will do that to you. So, you know, it's a hard one to say how this is actually going to impact Newcastle women going forward. A lot of people will say that Claire Ditchburn's position should be cemented as a permanent. Others will say, look, we need to do a little bit more and we need to go for a big name. But Ross Wilson was in the attendance And the search for a permanent manager will continue, but Ditchburn hasn't done herself any harm. 7 points from 9, a derby win, and visible momentum going forward. We're going to go into the second part of today's pod, which is Albania versus England. But first, I want to run through some of the lasses that stood out to me. First one is the penalty hero, obviously. The first two are pretty obvious, actually. Anna Tamminen didn't have much to do in the first half. From what I have seen of women's football, it is from tournaments where goalkeepers have struggled to save penalties. The English keepers do tend to be the best at that, of what I've seen on the lasses side. But Anna Tamminen, absolutely fantastic. When Sunderland player stepped up, I was sitting there thinking, it's 1-0. And the save brought the crowd to life, completely changed the game. And then she had some pretty good saves to make after that as well. And to be honest, I was very surprised how vocal she was at organising her defence. Very, very good performance. And arguably, if Emily Murphy wasn't going to be given the man of the match, or should I say the player of the match, sorry, then, it would have been Anna Tamminen, wouldn't it? And then obviously the second is the eventual match winner and player of the match, Emily Murphy. I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about women's football or her in particular, but the former Chelsea player oozed quality after coming on, was adventurous in her dribbling, and of course scored twice. It's usually a good sign someone's had a good game. And then the third standout for me was Beth Lumsden, particularly in that first half. She looked like the only woman on the pitch who was going to make something happen. She was the only one who tried to take on a full-back from both teams, really, and it was a standout performance. She looked absolutely fantastic. Newcastle United Women now sitting fourth, as I mentioned, going to the international break. Before that, there is a Women's League Cup group stage match. Newcastle are already out of that, but they do face WSL side Everton. It's a chance to test themselves against some top-tier opposition and gain even more confidence, because that opposition is without a win in 10 games since they won the opening day of the WSL season. 4-1 win against Liverpool. Obviously got promoted last year. So it is a tough game. Any game against WSL opposition is going to be tough. But Newcastle go into it full of confidence, because the derby victory, which just had everything. Drama, momentum swings, big saves, set piece chaos, as I mentioned, and an inspired substitution. So, more importantly for Newcastle, it showed the resilience, and that is something they've needed after losing Becky Lamley early in the season. You know what? We're not going to go into an advert. We're going to go straight into part two, which is England versus Albania. I haven't got a lot to say on the game. It'll be 2-3 minutes. So hence why I'm not going to go into too much with an advert. But England went into Albania with just one thing in mind: go in and come out with a clean sheet and a win. Thomas Tuchel, as I mentioned in the pre-match match preview, should I say, made some changes like we thought he would. Dean Henderson came in, Dan Burn, Gerald Quansah, Adam Wharton, Jude Bellingham, Eber Echeze, and Jared Bowen all came into the side. Tuchel, he wanted to see who was desperate to impress him, and honestly, in that first half, not a single player impressed. Maybe Jared Bowen, actually. That's a bit harsh. He was energetic. He forced the Albanian goalkeeper in, I think, his only save of the first half. But Albania were pretty much the better team, and it looked like they were going to score. Dean Henderson was forced into some good saves. One great piece of sweeper work as well, where he has to actually come in and make a tackle outside of his box. Can't remember if it was. It wasn't Broja. It was one of the other Albanian attackers. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it gets in behind. Dean Henderson comes out from his goal. Brilliant tackle. And at the 50th minute, you're looking at them thinking, Albania are the better team here. We might lose this. And then England sort of stepped things up. Bellingham sort of got a bit more time on the ball. He created England's first decent chance, fired the ball into Eze, who passed the ball at the veteran Albanian goalkeeper. For some reason, it looks like he tried to curl it and just hit the wrong side of the ball. Bellingham then fired over from a set piece. Dan Burn with a drop down. Hits Dan Burn on on the calf, really. He goes in for the header, bounces off the top of his head, hits his calf, and just lands in into the stride of Jude Bellingham, who fires over. And then came the substitutions. Bukayo Saka coming on for Eberechi Eze. There was another one as well, but Saka came on and made the most difference. He fired one straight at the goalkeeper pretty much straight away, but it was England that took the lead from a corner because of a ball from Bukayo Saka and a finish by Harry Kane. However, in the middle of those two, the Saka cross and the Kane finish, was unfortunately an Albanian head who aims to clear the ball. It scrapes off the top of the defender's head and it just lands in the 6-yard box. Keeper goes to try and claim it. He can't. Harry Kane, like the excellent poacher that he is, gets in front of the goalkeeper, prods the ball over the line, and England led 1-0. Albania had some decent chances and definitely caused England some problems, but England got a second when Marcus Rashford whipped in a delightful cross, arguably the first bit of attacking quality that England showed in the game, and Harry Kane nodded home for a brace. If Marcus Rashford can do that in England colours consistently, Anthony Gordon ain't got a hope of getting back in that England team. But 2 games, that was pretty much it for the England game. 2 games, and in the first half of both, we saw very little quality. But in the second halves, both Newcastle United's women's team and England picked up the wins due to talent coming off the bench. And that is all from me here on the Daily Newcastle. It's Derby Day delight for the lasses. And for England, it was another 90 minutes for Dan Burn and another clean sheet as England became the first team to go through the whole qualifying campaign without conceding a single goal. Now, it's a great record to have, but it could also be matched for the first time as Spain take on Turkey next week. And if Spain keep a clean sheet, England and Spain will have both done it for the first time ever this season, which is a bit mental. But Albania did put up one hell of a fight. Turkey are going to do exactly the same. England won by 2. Newcastle ladies won by 2. And if Carlsberg did Sundays, well, you know the rest.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.